Welcome to the masterclass on hitting ground strokes. Ground strokes are those shots hit from the baseline or from back in no man's land. I've been wanting to do these videos for a while, but honestly it's going to be a little bit controversial, so I've been putting off making these videos. This first video is going to focus on that controversy and why I think you should hit those ground strokes one way and not the other. The rest of the videos will focus on how you should hit those ground strokes the way I think you should hit them, on both the forehand and the backhand side. I will also admit up front that there's nothing I can tell you that's going to work 100% of the time. There are going to be those occasions in games where you just have to do what you can do. Here's what I think is going to be controversial. I believe that hitting sidearm with the arm stretched out to the side with this paddle in a horizontal orientation is much less consistent than having this ball in close and having this paddle in a more vertical orientation. In this video, I'm going to give all the reasons why I feel hitting the ball out here is much less consistent than hitting with the ball here. Your first reaction may be, wait a minute, I swing out here all the time, out here or here or here, and I think I do relatively well. And I watch pros on TV, and that's how they swing. They're swinging out here or here or here on both sides. So it can't be that bad. I don't really disagree, but I think it's less consistent than if I have this ball in close and I'm swinging low to high, and I'm going to go over the reasons why. And I'm not trying to say you should never hit sidearm. There are those occasions where you have to hit sidearm. That works for me as well. Say I'm back here and this ball is bouncing up high. I have no option because I've run out of room. I have to hit this ball sidearm either out here or here or here. And so there are those occasions for everybody, myself included, where you have to hit that ball sidearm. I'm not saying you should never do it. And this does not apply when I'm up on the kitchen line and I'm dinking or I'm in a firefight or whatever. This is only applicable when I'm hitting ground strokes, either back on the baseline or somewhere in no man's land. It does not apply when I'm up here on the kitchen line. I'm going to talk tennis for just a second. I've played tennis. I understand how to play tennis. I think there are a lot of good parallels between pickleball and tennis that if pickleball players knew and employed those parallels, their games would be better. I do think there are some places where pickleball and tennis kind of part ways, and hitting ground strokes is one of those, so let me talk about why. And I've coached people coming in from tennis and they go, wait a minute, I played tennis and I hit the ball out here and it works really well. And I go, yeah, I know, I played tennis too and that works really well. But it doesn't mean that I never hit a ball down here when I was playing tennis and that didn't work well. The main reason why I think tennis and pickleball part ways on hitting ground strokes has to do with this equipment. Strings on the racket, fuzzy tennis ball. These two grab each other really well. So if I hit this ball hard with this tennis racket, you could actually see the ball poking through the gaps in those strings. As a tennis player then, if I'm out here hitting balls and I'm going to impart a bunch of topspin or a bunch of slice on this ball, or even hit it flat, I can have a lot of confidence that when my racket, contacts this ball, that it's going to grab that ball and let me impart a bunch of that spin, topspin or slice on this ball. These two pieces of equipment are designed so they grab each other well upon contact. That's probably the biggest reason why hitting out to the side is so successful in tennis. Well, there's other reasons, but a big reason is that when my racket makes contact with this ball, I can have a high level of confidence it's going to grab that ball well and take all this topspin motion or this slice motion that I'm trying to put on that ball. Let's take a look at this equipment, what you already know. So no strings on here. This is a flat surface, and there are these competing technologies. Is there sprayed on grit on here? Is there a carbon fiber surface on here to grab the ball better? So we already know that this doesn't grab the ball as well as that tennis racket, and that's by design. The USA Pickleball Association approves or disapproves paddles, and they limit how sticky or how gritty or how much grab this paddle can have on the surface of this ball. What do we already know about this pickleball? Hard plastic, slick surface. By design, it's not designed well to grab the surface of this paddle very well. Still not the same grab as this fuzzy tennis ball has with that stringed racket. These two pieces of equipment then are designed to not grab each other nearly as well as that tennis racket and that tennis ball. What does that mean? It means then if I'm hitting out here to the side and I'm trying to impart topspin or slice, or even if I'm trying to hit that ball flat, these two pieces of equipment don't grab each other as well, so it's much more difficult to do these same things than it is in tennis with that tennis equipment. Again, I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do it, it's just more difficult. And it's more difficult because of the way this equipment is designed. And if it's more difficult, then your consistency is probably going to be lower. Another difference between tennis and pickleball, the balls themselves. As I hold these balls, I can feel how much heavier this tennis ball is than this pickleball. So it's hollow inside, but it's a much heavier ball and no holes to affect its aerodynamics. As it flies through the air has less impact on its flight than this lighter hollow, they're both hollow, with holes in it, pickleball. It doesn't have the same mass, it doesn't store the same inertia. So as it goes through the air, even if it's a calm day, the air is going to decelerate this ball much faster than this tennis ball is going to decelerate. To take this even a little bit further, ping pong ball, even lighter than the pickleball, much less mass. If you've ever tried to hit one of these with your pickleball paddle, you can tell this ball reacts really differently than even the pickleball does because this ball has no mass. And so the air density itself impacts the flight more severely than this does, and the air impacts the flight more severely than it impacts this tennis ball. All right, so what? What does that matter? Here's where it matters. If I'm back in no man's land or I'm back on the baseline where I'm hitting these ground strokes, this ball comes in and it bounces up high, my brain says, this ball's kind of above that net. I don't have to do much other than just hit it flat and it will go across that net, land in the court on the other side. In many cases, not true, because this ball has no weight, no mass, very little inertia that you can store in this ball. So as I hit it flat with this sidearm swing, it takes off toward this net, but that air resistance, that air density is going to slow it down so much, it takes a dive and falls into the net. What are my other options then? So a couple things. One is, if I'm all the way back here and this ball's bouncing high, my brain says, this is going to go over the net. I want some safety margin. So I need to have a little bit of low to high action on this to get some lift, to get the projection of this ball up and over the net. And low to high can be either very minimal, saying start here and ending here, or it could be very dramatic, where I'm starting way low and finishing way high. So however much low to high that I need, if I'm swinging sidearm and flat to get out here, I don't want to be swinging exactly flat. I want to be a little bit low, coming up to a little bit high to get enough lift to get this ball over the net. Second option then is, if I don't do that and this ball's bouncing up high and my brain says this ball is going to go over the net, I know I have to hit this ball a little bit harder, meaning that I've got to hit this ball so hard that it doesn't have time to decelerate and drop into the net. It's going to clear that net, but then I see people hit the ball so hard this way that it sails long. It sails deep and goes out of bounds long. And so now there's a question about, yeah, I can get it over the net, but can I get the ball to drop into the court on the other side? And again, yes, you can top spin this ball out here to the side. It's bouncing up high. I'm going to go very low to high, get some whip on this ball, a lot of top spin. I can hit this ball higher. The top spin, if it's heavy enough, will force that ball down, hopefully on the court on the other side. You can do that. It's just more complicated because these two don't grab each other very well. Let's think about timing a little bit. Timing is important for every shot, regardless of how you're hitting a ball. Timing matters. Well, let's think about it in perspective of, I'm swinging sidearm, what that timing looks like, and I'm swinging with the paddle very vertical with this ball in close. Let's think about two examples where I'm swinging sidearm or I'm swinging vertical and my timing is perfect. Let's say I want this ball to go straight away from me, straight down this line. So I'm swinging sidearm. I hit this ball perfectly, timing wise anyway, and this ball travels right down this line. Option two then would be, I'm more close to the ball, I'm crowded the ball, and I'm swinging with my paddle more vertical. And again, in this example, I get the ball to go straight down this line, meaning my timing was perfect. It sounds like both of those shots were good. Both of those shots were the same. Maybe, maybe not. Here's the difference. So if I'm swinging sidearm like this, and my timing is good, and my targeting is good, it comes right straight down the center line. The difference is, as I'm swinging sidearm with this paddle out to the side, if my paddle angle is off, and my top edge is rotated a little bit too far forward, that ball goes into the net. If my paddle angle is off the other way and that top edge is rotated backwards, now I get too much lift and I could give my opponents a high ball to attack, or it could go out of bounds long. Conversely then, on the second example, as I'm swinging with this ball in close with my paddle very vertical, now if my paddle angle is off, that ball goes left a little bit or it goes right a little bit, but it stays over the net, it stays low over the net, and it continues on that path that I hit it on. Because of that then, this is a way more consistent shot swinging with the ball in close, swinging low to high, than it is swinging out here to the side with I can't control or feel this paddle angle nearly as well. And it doesn't really matter as much if I'm swinging in this way. The ball just goes a little bit left or a little bit right if my paddle angle is off. If I'm swinging out to the side, that goes into the net, that ball goes high, giving my opponents a high ball to hit, or it could go long. So if I will refuse to swing sidearm, I get rid of all of those errors. I get rid of those net balls, I get rid of those high balls. That does not mean, and I'm not implying, that if I'm swinging like this, that I no longer hit this ball in the net, and I no longer hit this ball long or give my opponents a high ball. That can still happen, it still does, I still do that sometimes, but it's, in my opinion, much more consistent than swinging out here, where even if my timing is perfectly, it's harder for me to control the angle of this paddle and not dump that into the net and not give them a high ball. And there are variations between hitting sidearm and hitting vertical. There are all these other heights and angles out here as well. So in general, in my opinion, and I'm going to keep going over this, is why this is much more consistent. This is the least consistent, and the further away I get from this vertical position, and I can't be completely vertical because my leg is in the way. I'll cover that again later on. So the further away I get from being as vertical as I can be, the more problematic my paddle angle becomes. With this, the worst case scenario, this paddle angle matters the most, the more sidearm that I'm swinging. So far, I've tried to make it sound like this is really bad, and it kind of is, to hit this ball out the side, and this to sound really good, which it kind of is, hitting the ball in close with my paddle very vertical. This can be difficult to do in some cases, and here's the biggest reason why. I personally want to always hit the ball here when I can, but here's the tough thing with that. In a game, the ball's coming and say it's bounced, it's crested and the ball's out here, the ball is going to go where the ball is going to go. If I don't want to hit it here and I want to hit it here and I have time to fix that, what I have to do is move off to that side and move back. So this ball has crested. Let's say that's its high point. For me to be able to hit the ball in this position relative to my body, I have to move over and back and let that ball come down. And then I can hit this ball in close to my body with my paddle relatively vertical. So it depends on how much effort I'm willing to put in to move to get into a better position to be able to use what I think are better mechanics. And that's the difficult part. How much do I want to hustle to get into a better shape where I can use better mechanics? If you watch pro tennis, you see pro tennis players doing this on almost every shot. So they're back on the baseline, the ball's coming in, and what you will see them do is take huge steps to get closer to the general location they need to be, and then they'll start fine-tuning their location and pumping their feet with smaller and smaller steps to fine-tune where they are so that they can hit that ball well. Now they're still hitting sidearm because of the equipment issue that I went over earlier, but in general what they're doing is, and how I coached this, or I couched the terms of this, is 80% of the effort is getting where you need to get to on the court so that you can use those mechanics that you've practiced over and over and over. And that's what pro tennis players are doing. So most of their effort is getting to the spot before the ball gets there. So they're taking huge steps to get where they need to get, and then as they get closer, they start fine-tuning their position by smaller and smaller steps, and finally they stop. They figured out, I'm where I need to be. Now I can use those mechanics that are very familiar because I've hit those hundreds and thousands of times. So you may be thinking, that's too much work. I don't want to put in that much effort. I agree with you. I'm kind of lazy by nature. I don't put in more work than I have to. But let's think about a flip side of that argument or that statement. We're back on the baseline or deep in no man's land for whatever reason. Our opponents hit this ball, it bounces, comes up. What I see too many people do is be in a hurry to get to that ball. It's like they don't take their time, they don't relax, so they're rushing in to get this ball at its crest and forcing themselves to swing sidearm. I can't be vertical anymore because I'll be doing this. So they're rushing in too far, too fast, getting to the ball too quickly and trying to hit that ball at its high point, versus be a little bit more relaxed, be able to better predict where that ball is going to crest and come down. So as this ball comes in, I see where it's going to crest. I hang back a little bit, let that ball continue to come toward me. I don't want to hit it at its high point and let it come down off of that high point and hit it in close to my body with my paddle more vertical. That's going to be a much more consistent shot. Again, I'll go over the mechanics in a separate video in this series.